My name is Ahmad and welcome to my channel. In today's video, which is titled Information Security, a brief overview, we're just going to have a quick overview of what is information security and what are the different aspects and frameworks of information security. Slides. Um, Please remember that these videos are created for educational purposes only. So now let's get into it. What is information security? We're going to be looking at measures and practices used by individuals or businesses to protect their information. So information security, in a nutshell, are the various measures and practices used by either an individual or businesses to protect their information and also prevent unauthorized access. There are various ways by which this can be achieved. For example, using technical tools, that's the technical aspects of it, or by implementing and maintaining policies, so having adequate policies in place. This is mostly for businesses. The aim of those measures taken focus really on confidentiality, integrity, and availability of information. It's also known as the CIA triads. So looking at confidentiality, integrity, and availability, I'll give you a brief overview of each of these areas, but we'll look into them in more details later on. CIA, which is commonly known as the CIA triad, obviously not to be confused with a Central Intelligence Agency, um, is the practice or model designed to assist in drafting information security policies within a business. Those three concepts are very important to information technology. Let's have a quick look at each of the sections. I will cover, like I said, I will cover them in more details later on. So let's look at confidentiality. This refers to the steps taken to limit access to information and therefore avoid misuse of information. It relates to any information within an organization, but it's not limited to personal information. It is also a business's responsibility to ensure that appropriate measures are being taken or in place to avoid any non-authorized access to such information. This can be in terms of, for example, having an access control policy, or password protection, etc. So next one, integrity. Um, it refers to the guarantees in place that the information is trustworthy and accurate and complete. In other words, what it means is the information is in its unaltered form and can be accurately transferred or stored. Any alterations made to the information has to be authorized and also can be logged. This also includes measures taken to avoid accidental alterations to such information. An example of it would be in banking world, where the information which the bank holds on its customers can't be changed, there can't be any accidental change to any of this information. So the record has to be in its original or unaltered form. The next one is availability. Availability, which is the final element of the CIA triad, is the guarantee that the information can be reliably accessed by authorized people. This means that the information is available when it is needed. Organizations try to maintain a high availability of information by taking measures to reduce, for example, hardware failures or power outages. So these are the different sort of things which companies or businesses would look into in order to maintain a high availability of information. Now let's look at ways of maintaining information security. There are various ways of maintaining information security or various frameworks. The IT and cybersecurity industry have frameworks which have been long established and tested, and we've proven merit over time, and it's been applied within various industries. For example, medical industry, financial industry. So various industries have used those frameworks and adapted it to how it works for them, basically. Some of the well-known frameworks for information security are the International Standard Organization, which is short for ISO, and it's the ISO 27000 series, which it looks at information security. They comprise of a series of information security standards by the International Organization for Standardization, and also the International Electro-Technical Commission, the IEC. COBIT, which stands for Control Objectives for Information and Related Technology. This framework has been created by ISACA for Information Technology Management and Governance. The next one is NIST, which is short for US National Institute of Standards and Technology. They promote and encourage guidance based on existing standards to help better manage cybersecurity. The next one, which is quite specific within a card payment or to any organizations taking card payment, which is known as PCI DSS, which is a payment card industry data security standard. As mentioned, it's relevant to organizations taking card payments. Next one, which is US framework or legislation, is HIPAA, Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. It, as the name suggests, it applies to the medical industry, and it relates to information security framework. So it looks at a framework which would safeguard or encourage companies to have safeguards in place for when they handle protected health information, and to make sure that there's privacy and security within those organizations. The European General Data Protection Regulation, the EU GDPR. This is quite a recent piece of legislation, and it covers the whole of Europe, of EU, and it covers the whole of the countries within the EU, and the UK has also updated its Data Protection Act which would reflect the EU GDPR aim. So the EU GDPR, which was implemented in 2018, addresses the transfer of personal data of European citizens within or outside of Europe. And the UK has updated, as I mentioned, its Data Protection Act, which sets out the data protection framework of the UK. It sits alongside with the EU GDPR and is UK's implementation of the EU GDPR, if you want. So the main aim of this security framework is to reduce cybersecurity threats within organizations, and also to ensure that there are adequate safeguards in place. Each organization will choose the framework which would apply best to their requirements. Saying that, information security legislations in place have to be closely followed, and non-compliance with those legislations can result in hefty fines. We've seen so many cases in the last year or so. Data breach has affected so many businesses recently within UK and Europe and worldwide, for that matter. The next page we're going to look at is how to avoid data breach and being hacked by external parties. So there's an increasing number of businesses who now have a budget in place for data and information security compliance. This is because the cost of a data breach can sometimes lead to big financial losses, and also, more importantly, to a loss of reputation within the industry. So we'll look at certain security frameworks in more detail later, but I would like just to highlight some of the key areas which organizations should look at. Having an up-to-date software or antivirus. Businesses and also individuals should ensure that they are always using the recommended versions of, or the latest versions of softwares, and also having an antivirus installed on their machine. This is the first line of defense against external attackers, cyber attackers. Next thing we're going to look at is data encryption and backup. Data encryption is basically translating a file's data into a secret language to which you hold the key. It allows you to conceal the data from others using advanced algorithm that turns the data into unreadable data unless you have a key that unlocks the data. Data backup also is quite crucial. It's a crucial part of information security and aid to maintain the CIA principle. A good data backup strategy is very important for information security, as it helps prevent loss of data in an event, for example, of a hardware failure. Production data are also encrypted, as this diminishes the risk of the data being accessed by unauthorized users. This should be an important part, an important consideration for any businesses that processes a large number of data. Staff training and awareness. Again, also this is another area where businesses invest a lot of money in, and there's no point to have information security policies, practices in place for your employees or contractors or any third party if it's not going to be followed. And also an awareness has to be created for all the policies, all the processes within a company. Members of an organization should be trained to follow those processes, and also be aware how it affects their work, and how non-compliance could lead to a breach of information. It has to become part of a company's, of a business culture. The last point we're going to look at is risk assessment. Organizations should carry out a risk assessment in order to identify and mitigate information security risk. It's an integral part of most information security frameworks. Each framework also provides guidance on the various methodologies used in risk assessments exercises, and also what factors to consider. It should be reviewed periodically. I would say the frequency depends on the size of a company. I would probably say on a year, at least on a yearly basis, or twice a year, depending. It all depends on the size and the business requirements. That's all for today. So this brings us to the end of our video. Before I finish, just something for you to leave you with. Just remember that you are only as strong as your weakest link, and not knowing what about the weakest link doesn't really work about as a security strategy. I hope you've enjoyed today's video and found it helpful. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I hope to see you on the next video. Thank you. Bye bye.